And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show live from the Full Moon Saloon in Woodend. Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for coming tonight. Let's just spin the cameras around here so I can show you that we aren't sitting here completely, in an empty room. I will figure out how to do that in 1 second. There you go. We can do that. And then I can spin this one around to there. And look at that. Lo and behold, yay, there you go. Give yourselves a bit of a wave, folks. So nice to have you all on board tonight, and thank you for taking the time and coming in and joining us here at the Full Moon Saloon in Woodend. What a beautiful part of the world. Darren Bergwerf sitting beside me. This is like your second home.
Yeah, I've been out here a few times now, and I always love coming out here and supporting Zan and the crew at the Full Moon Saloon, because Zan was one of the warriors throughout the whole lockdown period where she told the cops where to go every time they turned up. So yeah, always want to support people and businesses that stood up for their staff and the people. And
great staff there is here too. We've met quite a few of them this afternoon. Been helping us with all sorts of things, but pouring beer has been largely amongst the best of them. Can we just say the food here is spectacular? How was your steak sandwich?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, yep. Absolutely magnificent meal. So the Full Moon Saloon, I don't know that they're open for breakfast, but lunch and dinner. And we might get Zan on for a bit of a chat later on. She can tell us more about the menu and what else goes on here at the Full Moon Saloon. So Darren, last time you and I saw each other, we were very excited. I was launching a bus. We were in Brisbane, 2,000 kilometres away. I couldn't wait to get on the road. And here we are. I've got to Woodend.
Woodend. Welcome to, you're in Woodend, and welcome to Victoria, Carl.
Thank you, mate.
You've had a few minor issues since you got here, so
there have been challenges.
I'll let you explain those.
There have been challenges. So I arrived essentially 2 days ago, but it gave me enough time to go to Denali to go and see some old family friends there. I've got a 91-year-old godfather who's an apiarist, and if you've watched this show, you know that I have an interest in what's happening with the bees. So I went and saw my Uncle Ray and his son Mark, who is continuing the business, and learned about what's going on with the bees, particularly in their particular patches. And they have a number of patches where they have hives all over the Mallee, the Western districts, and up into areas outside Balranald and that area. So I learned an awful lot. It was good to catch up with them. Unfortunately, on the way there, I had a coming together with a kangaroo. The kangaroo didn't fare so bad. The bus didn't seem to worry it at all. Also, I thought. I caught up with friends and family, drove back here to Woodend yesterday, and found what I thought was a nice little place to pull over for a couple of hours where I could do a bit of work and try and put a show together for last night. Little did I know that while putting the show together, somebody locked the gates of this recreation reserve that I had pulled into and left me locked in. So that wasn't such a bad thing. It meant I didn't have to go out last night and try and find somewhere on the side of the road to sleep. It was pretty easy. I was going to stay right there. But at about 3 o'clock this morning, I got woken up by this weird alarm clock beeping noise. Now, I know because I packed everything that's in that bus. There isn't an alarm clock. It can't make beeping noises. So you know what it's like when you're half asleep and you're hearing these weird noises. You think, what the hell could that possibly be? Well, I eventually figured it out. The only thing it could be was the tyre pressure monitoring system on the bus. And it was happily telling me that one of my tyres had 0 air pressure, which I had been, surprised to see. Anyway, got up this morning, had a bit of a look, and discovered that, yes, I most certainly had 0 tyre pressure in one tyre. And it looked like the second tyre on the left side rear was also in a very bad state and not going to hold much air much longer. So that began the day. I had to get myself out of the Macedon Council area. So thank you to the Macedon Council, the Macedon Rangers Council. I think Penny was the lovely lady who helped me find somebody with a key to come and let me out. And yes, I did lock the gates when I left. Great for them to help. And I would like to thank these guys here in Woodend. Black Forest Tyre and Auto have really helped me out today. I rang them as soon as they opened at 8 o'clock this morning. They were able to get one tyre up from Melbourne for me by about 11:30 this morning, which was great. Unfortunately, we hadn't discovered the other tyre was stuffed at the time of ordering. And that's where it's really good to have mates, because this bloke came up from Melbourne and came the long way so he could pick up another tyre for me and have it here for 8 o'clock tomorrow morning when the guys at Black Forest will fit that tyre, and I can head to Shepparton for tomorrow night's show. Thank you, Darren.
That's all right. But don't ever send me to bloody Derrimut and Fitzgerald Road ever again. What a nightmare. The traffic in that area is bedlam. It's a really awkward place to navigate.
Well, I did say I owed you beers for that. So,
you did.
Yeah, we'll look up. I know you're driving home, so we'll have to figure that out for another night. I'm being responsible here.
One of us is.
So this is my first time back in Victoria since the death of Dan.
Oh, there's news I haven't heard.
There is life in the folks yet. This is what
Did I miss it?
Well, all I heard was that there was a red mist descended upon Melbourne, and when it was cleared, there was no more Dan. The question that I have is, it's been a couple of weeks now, or nearly a couple of weeks. Has the mood of the state lifted? Has there been a change? Has the pall been pulled from the state?
No, I think some people were quite excited, and they decided to have a party on the steps of Parliament that next night. But no, nothing's changed, and I don't think Jacinda Allen is going to be any different. She'll be rolling out the United Nations and WEF agenda the same as Dan did. So nothing's changed. They've just got someone else at the helm, and the tyranny continues.
Yeah. That was going to be my question. Do we think that the tyranny will continue? She was pretty much built from or tarred with the same brush, wasn't she? From memory, she was supported Dan the whole way through. Was basically his mime.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
So I guess then, while the people were celebrating in the streets when Dan quit, what are they going to do to make sure that this new person that they've put in isn't going to do exactly the same? What trust do you have in your voting system? Victoria couldn't vote Dan Andrews out, it seems. What chance have you of voting out this new thing that they've put into the position? These would be my concerns if I was involved in a Victorian election. So is there a movement in Victoria to act on this?
Well, you know my position on voting.
I do.
And it has changed for all those people that kind of ridicule me as, I've ran into elections. That's fine. I have new knowledge and I am in a new position. So I don't think there is any way to vote any of these people out. And that's I don't believe that's the answer. We've got to get people to move on from the old system. People still stuck in that mindset that, old habits die hard, and they believe that that's the only way. Is to try and get someone in on and change it from the inside. And I think we've been trying that for 50 years, and this country's gone down the tubes every year, regardless of whether we had someone in or we didn't have anyone in.
Last week when you and I were on the Gold Coast, I was talking with the gentleman there who has some contact with Senator Rennick, and the message came back that Senator Rennick had said, well, I can't work with the freedom movement because none of you are working towards a political solution. I think I've made my position pretty clear on what Senator Rennick could and should do. He hasn't rung yet. Do you have a theory on what he might be able to do, given that he's basically a no-show at the next election? He's been disendorsed, so he's got no show of getting re-elected in that seat. Could he be someone the freedom movement needs to bring into and help understand where the movement is? Because he clearly believes that the movement is somewhere else. He clearly believes that the movement thinks there is a political solution. Does anybody here believe there is a political solution to our problems? No. So it's only the politicians that believe there is a political solution. That's because that's all they're built to know and do. And anything outside that box does not compute. Now, I think Rennick is an out-of-the-box thinker. He might be able, if the freedom movement are willing to give him an introduction to it, might be willing to see whether or not he could be of some use to us. And that is the only way that Senator Rennick is going to make himself useful. Would you agree?
I don't believe he can make himself useful. Full stop. I don't think any of them can, to be honest, unless they're willing to look into our constitution and actually come out and say that we are a fraud and we're unconstitutional. We're not the government. We're not here to look after the people. If they actually come out and said the real truth, then maybe I might have a bit more respect for them. But they only say what they're allowed to say, what their handlers will let them say, just enough to keep us on the hook to think that we've got someone in there fighting for us. It's so bleeding obvious that it's all a show, and and we just keep falling for it. And there are a lot of people in the freedom movement that believe that there's a political answer to this, and we've got new political groups forming, and people are following those political groups. Now, I know that there was a speaker before I spoke at Parliament House a couple of weeks back, before me, that was talking about what he's going to do and what the Freedom Party are going to do in 2026. Well, Dan's gone now, but it's not about Dan. It never was. It's about the system, and I'm certainly not interested in waiting to 2026 before we make some significant changes in attitudes and getting our own referendum up, maybe about a vote of no confidence in the system and all government.
What would that look like? What would a vote of no confidence in either a state or federal government look like to you?
Well, you'd have to have some kind of a blockchain app where you could hold a vote and just put it out to the public and see what the feeling is out there.
So 2 million people turning up on the streets wouldn't be enough?
Well, it wasn't enough 18 months ago.
No, but that was misdirected and usurped, I think, by professionals at the time. A lot of people's eyes have been widened now to those particular influences. And
have they?
Well, I think a lot have. I'm not saying that they've been dismissed totally yet, but people would be a lot more wary this time, and they might select a different group of people if there was to be such a group formed. That message wouldn't be to go in and write a letter and pray that the Prime Minister does something about it. It would be to go in and deliver a message that says, pack your bags, get out. The people will be coming through the doors, and you don't want to be here when they do come in. We are taking our parliament back.
Yeah, look, I don't know, that might be a little bit too belligerent, but look, I don't know. It was only 2 weeks ago where the freedom movement is still taken over by politicians. And it doesn't matter where it is. I went to a rally down for the log truckers down in Gippsland, and 2 politicians got up to speak at that, and it was a people's rally. And while the people that are in the movement continue to bring politicians into the mix and muddy the waters, Dave Graham got locked out of being able to speak on that stage. So there's a lot of shenanigans still going on within the freedom movement, and why that is and who they allow to speak is pretty significant. And the way I see it, they're manoeuvring to install the next generation of WEF puppets.
Yep.
And to me, that's pretty obvious. Now, you can't really call it out because I have no evidence as such, but people just got to look at things a lot more critically than what we do.
Sharon raises a good point here. Iceland were able to remove themselves from the central banking system. They actually put the bankers in jail. They removed themselves from the UN, the WEF, and the Federal Reserve. Well, the Federal Reserve is an American banking system, but they did end their banking system and start afresh. I don't know enough of the details about, I can't remember, it was a few years ago that happened. I can't remember enough of the details about it, but could something like that work here? If Iceland could do it, can Australia?
What's the population of Iceland?
I think 7,500.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then no.
No? Don't think it'll work?
It's never going to work here. We can't even get the whole freedom movement to agree on a way forward. So, and potentially, and then the people I talk to, as far as First Nation people, and from my attitude that maybe, our country's not ready.
Yeah.
The people aren't ready. And that's why, controversially, I said the other week, not that I want it to, and not that I'm encouraging it, but if the yes vote happened to get up, it's not as bad as it would seem, because it will bring things to a head. And I think this country needs a lot more pain before we're going to actually, get our shit together. And that could be part of it.
Somebody yelled at me the other day because I said something similar. I don't think we've suffered enough yet. and they asked me what sort of a human I was to say we haven't suffered enough. You know, maybe I haven't suffered enough, but these particular people had been suffering greatly in their lives with various different things, from medical illness through to financial distress placed on them by the banks and the lending institutions.
It's a callous statement if you look at it as an individual. I mean, I know that there's banks that have taken farmers' properties. There's also people that have lost family members from the vaccination, and there are certainly a lot of people that have suffered a hell of a lot. So I'm not discounting the fact that people have suffered, and a lot of them to a greater degree than 99%.
Yeah. But
as a generalisation, everything I say is a generalisation. I'm not directing it at anyone in particular. It's just a kind of overview. And as a country, I don't think that, we're still very privileged. We're still living our daily lives as if nothing's going on when we're in the middle of a war. And I don't think people have changed enough, and no one changes unless they're actually really smacked with a sledgehammer. So that's where I'm coming from when I say that I don't think people are hurting enough. And that's just my view. It's not, it's my opinion.
I don't think there is a lot of talk about people with gun ownership and weapons in Australia. I'm not advocating a weapons solution. There is no weapons solution. If you bring your gun out, you are going to get killed. And if you bring your gun out and I happen to be standing beside you, I'm going to get killed. Same said for anybody who happens to be standing around you carrying your guns. I once met a UCC exponent in Sydney who, after the first 20 minutes of me sitting at his table, told me that the best solution they could all have would be to get their guns. Everybody gets their guns, puts them over their shoulder, and goes to Parliament House, but doesn't take any ammunition. Don't take any ammunition, just take the guns. And I said, oh, really? And you think that'll make a difference? And he said, oh, yeah, of course it will. I said, the only difference it'll mean is that they'll kill you without you being able to fire a shot back, because that is exactly what they will do. We are outgunned, outmanned on every platform. So don't think that bringing your little pop gun out, and regardless how good your little pop gun happens to be or how many of them you have, you are outgunned. And you are not going to be coming and standing beside someone like me, putting me in danger. Or Darren, because you're not into that sort of feel either, are you?
No.
It's not something that you'll find proffered through the Voice of Freedom, through the Freedom Broadcasting Network, or I dare say through my place. So, all well and good. If you've got a gun, that's great. Keep it to yourself. Protect yourself and your family if that's what it's required for. But don't take it out on the streets, and certainly don't come to Parliament waving it around, because yours will be one of the first heads blown off. Have absolutely no doubt. So don't risk it. We have to find another way. And this is, a lot of people in the chat are saying tonight, there aren't enough eyes open yet. So we're trying, but what can we do? What more can we do as individuals? My place is a great starting point to get the conversation, regardless where you are in the book, if you've just started it or you're deep into it and you've been down a ton of rabbit holes. Here, in a My Place environment, there are no stupid questions, and everybody treats you with respect. So it's a good place to come and learn if you have a mind to. Our biggest problem is attracting those people with those minds that don't see things our way. There used to be a term years ago, it may be politically incorrect these days, bi-curious. Now you're everything curious, I think. You can't just be bi. You'd have to, rainbow curious, I think is how it works.
Fluid gender.
Fluid curious. Oh, that sounds yucky. Sorry about that. Smiling at the live audience. Now I've lost my track completely. I think what we can do, though, is we have to find a way to open more of those eyes. So I've had people come to me and say, I couldn't go to My Place. It's too confronting. Too many people who think differently the way I think. I mean, how do you argue against that sort of mentality? I don't want to go somewhere where people don't think like me.
Well, look, there's plenty of different thinkers in My Place communities. Don't worry about that. And we've got issues the same as every other community have, and every other group has, because when it comes down to people are awkward, and people have got a lot of growth to go through if we're going to come out the other side and move forward. the way that we're trying to encourage and change the mindsets of people to do. And that's all of us. All of us. And there's plenty of arguments, there's plenty of bitchiness, and all kinds of stuff goes on in every community. And that's all the growth that it's messy, and it will continue to be messy. And we've got so many different people on so many different pages that's all we can do. And what we're trying to do, as far as what you're talking about before, is less fighting and more
open discussion.
Well, open discussion, but more creating and building. So, when we first started my place, it was about fighting. It was pushing back. It was saying get stuff to the mandates and the passports and the masks and all the rest of it. And we've moved through a whole varying degrees of political answers and different things, and we continue to move. And it's a must that we can't stay stuck in a position. We've got to continue to move, because if you're not moving forward, you're basically going backwards. So, we've got to keep developing, the direction that we're wanting to move forward as a community and as a country. And, that will continue to develop. Now, other people are moving a bit slower, or they're holding on, they can't let go, or they're in a position where their life just doesn't allow them to do the things that we'd all like to do. So there's so many varying moving parts to this kind of community and what we're going through, that it's going to take a hell of a long time, or a lot more pain, to the point where everybody gets on board, because the whole country's being decimated by governments and banks taking properties, which I've seen one today that ANZ are lining up to take 60 odd properties and foreclose. So I think that this is going to play out over a lot more years than people think. We're nowhere near an answer. We've got a lot more years ahead of us. So those people think we're close to the finish line. They need to kind of reassess that position and realise that until we change, nothing's going to change.
So I know you're not a white hat proponent so much these days, or a Q proponent. However, if I can ask you just to bear with me for a moment, I'm with you, and at the moment we don't have enough feet on the ground to win this battle. We need a large catalyst moment, something that opens a lot of people's eyes. Is the white hat movement capable of delivering that if Trump is put into the speaker's chair, for instance?
Look, yeah, that's a possibility. But once again, it's still a cop-out. Everyone's looking for the easy solution, the easy answer. Trump going in as speaker and then being reinstated. It's still going to take years for those things to play out. And unless it won't develop. The people won't develop how they need to develop if somebody comes in and rescues them. So
no, I don't think that Trump would come in and do that. If he was going to come in and do that, he would have done it while he was in power in the first term. I don't think that the white hat movement is that movement. The white hats are about waking us up. They are about giving us the rabbit holes to follow, the threads to pull on. And I think we are the key. We, the people, are the key. Once the knowledge becomes our knowledge, that hidden secret knowledge that they've kept from us becomes known to us, then they can't hide and we have nothing to fear. They, on the other hand, will have everything to fear because we will have the knowledge. I think a helping hand to that knowledge, a complete exposure, for instance, of the illegalities of the Biden administration might be at least go a long way to waking up a lot more people, because if that can be true, what else can be?
I think they've already done that in America. 80% of Americans already know that that Biden's a fraud, and they know that their system's a fraud. But they continue down that path. Look, I'm not saying that there's nothing going on in the background, but as far as I'm concerned, I couldn't give two hoots what's going on overseas. It's irrelevant for what we need to do here on the ground. And while most of the freedom movement spend 4, 5, 6 hours a day looking for stories about someone's coming to rescue us, or looking for what's going on overseas, we're not actually doing what we need to be doing. So that's the main reason that I push back and say, there is no one coming to save you, because people need to actually start to look at themselves and start to change who they are, not instead of waiting. And if it happens, it happens, but it doesn't change the fact that what we're doing is going to continue for the next 2 or 3 generations. Just because Trump gets in and Biden gets put in jail and whatever else happens, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden 26 million people in Australia flip and everything's rosy and good moving forward. So without the growth and the people doing the work on themselves, starting right now, it makes no difference. They're still going to be the same people with the same attitudes and the same beliefs for the next 20 or 30 years. So what we're trying to do is try and get people to transition out of that old belief into a new way of thinking, a new way of living, regardless of whether something's happening overseas and someone's coming to rescue us.
Onto a different topic. What's going on in Israel and Gaza at the moment. This is going to play out on the streets of Australia. And given that there is a very large Jewish and Palestinian community in Melbourne, how do you think this is going to play out?
I've already seen some reports today at the Opera House, what's happening up there. So, there could be issues on the streets in Melbourne and Sydney particularly. But once again, it's out of our control. It's not something that I want to give any kind of oxygen to. I'm just want to stay in my lane and do what I need to do. And all that other noise is just a distraction to me. And I'm not interested in any of that news of what's going on, because it's all fear porn.
Yep.
And it's all there to unsettle people and get people, afraid. And we've just got to move on from that, block out all the noise and just concentrate on who we want to be.
Scott's got a good idea here. If you want to wake up Australians, withdraw access to beer. Well, it seems to work. I mean, there looks like a few people of a certain age around here who will remember that every Christmas CUB used to have a beer strike in November.
Yep.
Remember? You weren't going to have beer for Christmas. World's worst thing. Heaven and earth got moved. People got paid. Trucks got fueled. Beer arrived in time for Christmas.
Correct. And if you didn't leave the long necks out for the garbos, your rubbish wouldn't get picked up
too. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Nowadays, they charge you for leaving full tallies outside for the garbos.
Yeah.
Oh, you want us to pick up full ones? They're heavier. Geez. Thanks to so many folks who are popping in tonight on the chat. There's a lot of interesting comments coming through. So thank you, folks, for all of that. And hi, George. You've been saying some good stuff tonight too. I've been trying to keep up with you in the chat. As always, George is pretty full on. Darren, we're going to be moving around Victoria over the next few days. We're doing my place, Shepparton, tomorrow.
Yep.
Heading up to Echuca. Now, you and I are going to spend a little bit of time on the wharves in Echuca.
Yep.
And then, of course, we'll head off to the Ainsley Bullion show that's happening at Rich River Golf Club at Echuca Moama on Thursday evening. I'm playing no part in that show, so we might actually record a bit of a show, Darren and I, from Echuca, and we'll play that one out Thursday night, let you know what it's like, life on the wharves there. I haven't been there since I was, probably 20, 30 years ago it would be since I was there at least. So I'm really looking forward to going and see how much that changed. And, of course, this time last year, it was all flooded.
Yeah, I think Echuca was underwater a certain amount,
Yeah.
Yep,
So,
correct, around the state election.
Yeah. So, about this time last year, there was a lot of water damage in Echuca and Rochester. And this time round this year, it seems to be down in Gippsland, I heard yesterday.
Yeah, Gippsland, but there's also a bit around coming out the Goulburn River now. Eildon's been way over capacity for all of winter again. So there are going to be some floods around some of the cabin parks and caravan parks along the Goulburn River again this year.
What was the snow like this year? Was there more of it than normal, less of it than normal?
No idea. No idea.
It usually plays a pretty big role in how big the melt is afterwards, obviously. But we know that for the last few years, at least those in charge of the Eildon catchment haven't been letting water go, and when they do eventually. The Goulburn certainly floods, and the Hume Weir was the same. They were getting a huge amount of water into there and pushing it down the Murray. And that's why places like Echuca and Rochester wound up so deeply in it. So hopefully not so much this time. What's the... I've sort of come across the northern part of Victoria, if you like. It's looking very green but drying off. Everywhere I've stopped and bought fuel, and trust me, folks, I've stopped in a lot of places and bought fuel. The talk is bushfires. Everybody is talking about bushfire risk. What's it like down Frankston, down your part of the world?
Yeah, it's not too bad where we are because we don't see much sun in Melbourne, to be honest. It's constantly cloudy. We haven't had a summer for 2 years, and they're mucking with the weather down here a shitload, as they are, up on the New South Wales coast as well with the chemtrails and all that kind of stuff and cloud seeding. We know they're doing that kind of stuff, but the Gippsland fires have already started. I know there's been a lot of fires around Australia already, up in Northern Territory and Queensland. I'm expecting this year will be a pretty bad fire season.
A lot of people are very aware of it. Like I say, everywhere that I've stopped it, somebody has mentioned it to me, that, gee, it's dry or it's getting drier. I did notice that coming over from Gundagai and down through Albury, it was green but drying very quickly. Still a lot of feed in there in the paddocks for sheep and cattle. I dare say once summer arrives in earnest, that will dry out very, very quickly. And as always in Australia, we struggle with idiots who like to go and light fires as well. So I know that this year I've been talking to a friend of mine who actually, is a professional firefighter, let's say. And they are this year putting extra assets into place in Victoria, Queensland and New South Wales, quite probably other states as well. But they are putting extra assets into place this fire season to potentially catch firebugs in the act. So you can naturally assume that this will be some form of aerial surveillance of areas where they would expect potential fires to begin. I don't know how they plan that out. There must be some algorithm or something, but they're going to have eyes in the sky this year watching for those people who might just drive up a dirt road and all of a sudden a fire starts. So if you have a mind to take a packet of matches out and do stupid things, then I hope they have your face on camera, because we'd like to see you locked up for a very, 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 very long time.
Let's hope they have lots of cameras pointing towards the sky as well, because there's a good chance there might be some direct energy weapons that might be starting some of these fires and not people with matches too.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I was going to draw people's attention to a satellite tracker. It tracks Chinese satellites predominantly. And if you go back and check out the dates of the fires in Hawaii, you will find that there were 2 Chinese satellites flying directly over the areas where these fires started at the time these fires started. There is I've played or I've uploaded, I think, on VoF HQ. There is a video that explains how this works. These satellites fire a 1-second burst, and it basically sets 1 square meter on fire. And because the satellites are traveling at over 20,000 kilometers an hour, these pulses are sent out, but the satellite is obviously moved. So it starts meter square fires about 70 to 100 meters apart from each other. It then looks on a satellite photo that this is all just started of its own volition, fire started and has spread through the wind, blowing embers and that sort of thing. But the truth of it is it's nothing like that. These and they have identified the pattern in Maui that could really have only come from something above, whether that be an aircraft or a satellite. But at this point in time, don't believe it's aircraft that'll be starting these fires. It will be satellites. And I don't know how on earth we catch them doing it unless we've got cameras pointed, in that direction 24 hours a day. And what direction,
Yeah, look, I don't know, those fires in Maui, I don't think they'll come from any satellite every 100 metres. They were a lot more serious than that. And
I think that's just
melted cars and houses and left trees there, so it's not a bushfire.
No, that's the. I think that also has a lot to do with what they've been spraying. So our ground, our trees, our plants, everything is sodden with flammable material. The aluminium, the barium, the other bits and pieces, it doesn't just go into the water, it falls into the ground, falls onto the ground, falls onto the dead leaves. It makes everything burn that much hotter. Melted engine blocks, that's some serious heat, and that doesn't come out of a bushfire.
Nope.
Best heat you're going to get out of a good bushfire is 1800 degrees. You're not going to melt an engine block with that, so it needs to be twice that. So yeah, there's something weird going on there. Have you seen? You're in the building industry. Have you seen much of an influx in blue paint?
No, not at all. No.
I don't know. I was in a paint shop the other day. I should have asked if blue paint sales have gone through the roof yet. There are a lot of people pushing that this blue paint doesn't, work with the laser. Laser won't work through it. I have people who work with lasers, very, very big lasers, all day, every day, contacting me and telling me that it's absolute bullshit. Doesn't really matter. Colors play no role in what the laser can do. And they couldn't actually provide a reason why these blue things seem to survive the burning. But they did demonstrate quite amicably, very ably, that their laser will burn anything blue to a crisp very easily. So, I don't know that blue is going to protect you from that too much.
No, look, it's all a distraction. Again, they just put out this propaganda and this information, and people just run around like headless chooks, wanting to show everybody what they've found, and for what reason? I mean, we're so distracted by all of this shit that's going on.
Israel is the same. Israel is a distraction again. And I had cause this morning to take someone to task a little bit. They rang and they were freaking out, absolutely freaking out that Israel was going to use nuclear weapons on the Palestinians. I said, have you ever been to Israel? No. I said, well, neither have I, but do you know much about Israel? No. I said, well, do you know that Gaza is 12 kilometres from Israel? No. Well, you're not going to let a nuclear weapon off 12 kilometres from your own border. So it's not going to happen. That doesn't mean that they don't have access to all sorts of other weapons, and they do, and they will use them. But this is a distraction. This is a brutal, bloody, bloodthirsty distraction. And I do believe this is a cabal-driven distraction again. We haven't gone into it deeply on this show because it's a very interesting subject to touch on, but we will get into the Jews behind the Khazarian mafia. We will get into the Jews who aren't really Jews, that follow Baal, that worship Moloch, and the ones that are controlling the world. They claim that they're Jewish, but they're not. They're a sect, and they would prefer to see us all dead, good Jew or not, than anything else. So we are going to have that conversation. But it's important that when we do, you're able to separate in your mind that we are not having an anti-Semitic conversation. We are telling you a truthful story about a sect of people who call themselves Jewish, a sect of Judaism, but they don't worship anything the normal Jews' religion would follow. They follow the devil. So we will have that conversation, but that is a rabbit hole a lot of people are not too keen to go down too quickly. And I can see Darren having a fun time with it himself. So we will see that. Now, I did see a hand go up before. Somebody wanted to ask a question. Jennifer, did you want to ask something, or did you just want to join in the show and have a chat for no apparent reason?
I was going to say something about what you were saying a while ago.
No, it's all gone. All right, good. Nobody's got a question. I might get you to step out if I can very quickly. And Zan, do you want to come up and have a chat? You can just tell us about this magnificent establishment. We are at the Full Moon Saloon in Wood End. If you haven't been to Wood End, it is a magnificent little city. It's about, an hour and a half north of Melbourne? Hour north of Melbourne. It's not Yuppieville, Daylesford. It's hoping to be, but it's not there yet. This is Zan, our host. Thank
Hi,
you for having
everybody.
us tonight.
Thank you so much for everyone out there being here at the Full Moon.
Great place you have here. How long have you had it?
About 4 years.
Really? And are you responsible for everything we see around here?
Do you
Or-
have a complaint?
No.
Oh, then
no.
I'm responsible.
No, it's fabulous. In fact, somebody will have a chat with Paul here shortly. He and I were just having a talk about it outside. It is just such a great, inviting venue. The kind of place where you'd want to come on a Sunday afternoon for good music and a couple of beers and with friends,
Thank you.
and somewhere great to bring your family.
Well, that's true. We try to be a family-safe venue. And I have to be honest, actually, my business partner is the handy one. He did all of the decor pretty much from a lot of rescued timber, namely
well.
from a pier in Adelaide.
Oh, wow.
That's where all the wood's from and a bunch of other stuff that we've collected over the years.
Tremendous.
Things from the bottom drawer. We made it useful.
Yeah, great.
So, yeah, but we do try to be a family-safe venue, or don't try, we are.
Yep.
We still have male and female on the toilet doors.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. And you were, as Darren said, very vocal when Dan started flexing his muscles a few years ago. Can you just explain how that set you up in the town at the time?
Well, set me up or kind of that was the end of us, really, because most of the people in this town are not interested in being free. In fact, I did a little bit of polling booth work and for the Freedom Party when it was a thing, and the people thought it was a 4-letter word.
Yeah, wow.
And I'd say, would you be interested in having a look at the Freedom Party? Oh, no, I don't think so. So pretty much the whole of this area is like that. There's, only a small group of people that are interested in their future. They pretty much all come here on a Wednesday night for a Red Pill Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we did lose a lot of customers. It was a massive hit, but we didn't have a choice. It was a case of, do we want to just sort of keep the status quo, keep our customers, or do we do what's right? There's not, it's just not really a choice.
Yeah.
So we had to do what was right, even though it was a massive hit. And thankfully, we've made a really beautiful community and found a really beautiful community of like minds, which has come out of it. So that's been a good thing.
And you're known nationally.
Wow.
I mean, people know about the Full Moon all over the place now
That's
as
amazing.
somewhere to, come and meet like-minded people. So
That's really nice.
yeah, it's good,
Cool.
isn't it? It must be great to know that I know this because I'm meeting people on the road, and I've met people leading up to this little journey of mine. And they're always asking about, what was that pub like? Or was this good? Or, no, I saw you here or I saw you there. And I just know that the same thing will happen here. The Full Moon is a great place to just come and relax. If you're in Melbourne or you're in Ballarat or you're in Bendigo or Denali, as I was, it's not a
Thank
far
you.
drive. It's very simple. And the town is just beautiful.
The town's lovely.
Yeah.
The geography and the topography, if that's the right word, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
The foliage and everything, especially during autumn, it's a very pretty town. It's just sad there's not many smiling faces on the woke ones, but there's lots of smiling faces on the awake ones.
So I had a good experience with the local council in that they did eventually send someone to unlock the gate and let me out. I wasn't too worried about cutting their locks off. In fact, when the local Woodend hardware store opened this morning at 8 o'clock, I was the first one through the door looking for a pair of bolt cutters and a cutting wheel for my angle grinder.
That's always handy to have in your runaway bag.
Yeah. Also, I thought you can always use bolt cutters. You never know where you're going to get locked in. They were great. They came down and let me out this morning, and they didn't even charge me for sleeping overnight, which was really nice. My experience with the council has been pretty good. But it's been brief. What's council like in the area?
Pretty toothless. They are very busy trying to make your life difficult, but I'm probably going to have someone come and visit. We've had 4, maybe 6 health inspections in 4 years.
Wow. There are Indian restaurants in Melbourne that haven't had one in 20.
Yeah, well, I don't want to hurt the council's feelings, but I just they're not really doing the job they should be doing, and they are doing all the jobs they shouldn't be doing. They kind of have made it very difficult for us. They cause a lot of trouble when we were trying to open.
Yep.
And they still continue to try to cause trouble, trying to make us do certain things and sign up with certain agencies because we're a business. We have to sign up and contract with this agency or that agency. And they're not quite sure how to handle us. So they don't really get anywhere.
And you resist as best you can.
With grace and being polite. I don't just say no, but I ask questions that they just can't answer. And I'm awfully happy to do anything you ask, provided you can show me this and explain me this. And of course they can't. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to fulfill many of their requests so far.
But you're trying.
Trying our best.
That's the main thing.
Trying our best.
That's the main thing. All right. So apart from Red Pill Wednesdays, what are the best nights or days of the week to be coming in?
Sunday's always lovely. We've got the biggest beer garden in Woodend.
Woohoo.
So, yes, and it's, I think, the only beer garden with any sun, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's nice. Saturday nights, of course, we've got the big barn out the back, and that sort of, especially in the warmer weather, we've got the big barn doors open and the smoke machines going and everyone's choosing their own tunes. So it's a bit of a party out here. And then the odd Friday night, we've got musicians, more, of course, in the warmer months. And the first Friday of every month, as you would expect for a saloon bar, we have boot scooting.
Oh, look out.
So please come and scoot your boots on the first Friday of the month.
I can see Darren Bergwerf is sitting over there. He's licking his lips. Yeah, he'd be up there in his Blundstones. Absolutely. Excellent. Well, thanks for having us. Really appreciate you having us in here tonight.
Really appreciate it. Loving the laser-proof jacket.
Yeah. Talking about staying warm. There's no point complaining. I come from Queensland. It's bloody cold. That's just all I can say. It's bloody. I mean, look at you Victorians. You're all rugged up, except for Darren. But there's a reason. Darren. No, I won't go into Darren's reason.
Woodend is actually the coldest town in Australia.
Really?
Yes, I was shocked to hear that. The coldest town in Australia.
Well, I felt that last night through my -5 degree supposedly sleeping bag.
Yeah.
In my 15-minute city. Yeah. It's all gone out really well. Zan, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to coming back. And I'll bring the whole show next time. We'll have cameras and gears everywhere.
Yes, and dancers. Bring the dancers.
Oh, dancers.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll get Darren his blunnies out. If you, the boot, scoot and boogie, we'll organise it.
You.
And
Thank you so much.
I'll see if I can't bring a few friends along.
Awesome.
Make that happen too. Thanks,
Thanks
Zan.
everybody. Bye. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah, that's the Full Moon Saloon in Woodend. And Zan, bloody great. Before we shoot off tonight, I'm going to bring over my sort of travelling companion for the time being. Oh, yes, I've got one more question.
I remembered what I was going to say.
Oh, good.
I wanted to put a shout out for an organisation called solutionsempowerment.org.
A shout out to solutionsempowerment.org. And who are they and what are we shouting them out for?
They are able to help out people like Darren was mentioning earlier, people that were having their houses foreclosed.
Oh, yeah.
He can help those people jump through all the legal hoops to prevent that from happening.
Right. So if you're having a legal issue with a bank, this might be a group you could contact. So thanks for that, Jen. And he's got a good strike rate. So, okay, excellent. We'll, if you find yourself in that position, see if you can't avail yourself of that fella's help. That could help you out. I'll get my next guest on, who is coming over to, well, he's been a great help to me in so many ways. And you've known him with me for about a year or so. Paul Offey, the Freedom Truck owner, driver, and, well, we'd love to say operator, but the bloody thing's still locked up in Canberra, isn't it?
Yeah.
It ain't no fun. So Paul and I are on the road at the moment together. And when I say on the road, I saw you 3 days ago in Coffs Harbour.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
We left Gold Coast together, and then Coffs Harbour, we sort of went our own ways. I've been catching up with people in Sydney and Melbourne that were very helpful when I was initially going through all the stuff, and wanted to drop past a few people and thank them for their
great.
Their kind-heartedness. And
so thank you for your help with me. Paul and his brother Michael were instrumental in getting me on the road when we did, even though we may have got on the road a bit early, but were instrumental in getting me on the road. Without them, I would have no lights. which would have made it a lot easier to probably hit the kangaroo that I hit the other night. I wouldn't have had to see it as much. Yeah, no lights, a whole heap of other little fiddly mechanical bits and pieces that the boys did on the vehicle. Tech screwed down the right side of it for me.
Yeah.
And a few other bits and pieces. Actually did alert to a fact that there might be a tyre problem, but I think that was at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'd been up since 5 o'clock that morning, and my patience level for anything else that was going to be done on the vehicle at 1 o'clock in the morning had just about run out.
It's always stressful ironing out the few bugs at early hours of the morning when you got to leave the next day, and then you don't find a lot of the bugs until you're traveling a few thousand Ks into it.
Yeah, well, we certainly found them. And look, it's to be expected. The vehicle had been sitting for 18 months, even though the dealership had told me it was 8. It'd been sitting for 18 months, and I think those tyres have gone a bit hard. We're bound to have a few more teething problems. I've got a hydraulic issue, which I've got to fix tomorrow. So there are a few problems, but nothing, I hope, that's insurmountable. And you know, I've got you and your mechanical ability along, at least for part of the time, to give me a bit of a hand. So I appreciate it. So where are we at with your case? Last time I think you and I spoke, we were still trying to raise a few dollars for you to get a barrister and a solicitor to represent in the Supreme Court. Now, you've been given a Supreme Court date for next year?
Yep, that's the 24th of the 6th, 2024. That just seems like ridiculous that it'll be almost 2.5 years before I get my chance to speak some truth in court. So I guess not sure why that is. Maybe they just don't want the circus to be in town in their courtroom.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. They've also got some other issues. The fellow that was in charge of the Director of Public Prosecutions in the ACT at the time when your charges were laid directly involved himself in your case. Now, this is the same fellow who has been thrown out of the job and is now under a lot of investigation for some of the actions that he took against a lot of people that were charged in Canberra with various different things. Veteran Dan, who many of you will know and love, he was put through the ringer. A number of other guys, part of the Canberra Standards, were put through the ringer. And I actually heard the other day that one of them just had all their cases thrown out. So they don't need to go back to court again. It makes me think that there is some common sense returning to the Canberra courts, particularly now that the DPP has rid itself of one Shane Drumgold, whose name appears on a lot of your paperwork.
Yeah.
Now, this is the same bloke that got the DPP in so much shit with Brittany Higgins and that case with Bruce Lehman. Now, his name crops up in no good way in all of that and in many, many, many of the cases against the folks that were in Canberra that weekend where you had your vehicle taken. They have definitely tried to make an example of you, and they've definitely tried to take your vehicle and sell it out from underneath you, unlawfully, we can add. So far, legal aid in the ACT was useless, beyond useless. Legal aid is only there if you are willing to take a plea, if you are willing to plead guilty to something. They will not fight your case. And that's what that was what we found, really, wasn't it?
That was, yeah, it was. They didn't do their job, that's for sure. And but it's also questionable finding a lawyer that will do their job anyway. But
I'd be careful. You've got one working for you now. Be all right.
The biggest, I think, problem is you have all these legal aid, DPP, the court system. It's all paid by the same. They're all getting paid by the same master. Then due to the, I think if I'm not mistaken, due to the investigation with the DPP, they're then looking at doing a watchdog. Well, as I saw in a movie, I can't remember which one, many years ago. Not sure it was Mel Gibson Conspiracy Theory or that one Bluebird or whatever with the helicopter monitoring everyone. But they said, who's going to watch the watchdog that's going to watch the watchdog that's going to watch the watchdog? They're all paid by the same people. So at the end of the day, as Darren said, it's things, you know, really aren't anywhere near
Yeah.
being a relatively good solution.
So where are you at the moment? You're still unemployed. You can't work. You can't do much.
Yeah,
really.
it is difficult with a lot of things, and there's a very varying reasons with a lot of that. And I guess at this stage, where I'm at the moment, I also got a date set that took a long time, and I can't quite remember because I stopped counting at about 11 court hearings, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And so I think it's up to probably 18, 22, something like that regarding my case.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, ridiculous number.
Thanks for all you taxpayers for paying for their side, because apparently that's what they do with your money.
Yep.
Other than that, they'll donate to overseas aid. But yeah, so it's just been ridiculous because it just would keep getting adjourned for this or that, but it doesn't stop them making you sit in the court hearing the entire day.
Yeah.
Having to wait till you get heard last, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, we've run out of time," or "We need to set a new date because of."
Oh, you've brought new information we didn't know about.
Or the
Yeah.
other side or whatever. So yeah, I guess now a date's set. That's good. Following through on from this, getting my ducks in a row. Obviously getting my sort of evidence and working through things. I've got a lawyer that is looking promising, has his heart in the right place, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, that's all looking up and looking forward. There's going to be a lot of work between now and that day.
And you're still raising funds because while you've been able to secure the lawyer, you've basically paid the deposit, haven't you?
Yeah, there's obviously, as everyone knows, any court hearing is expensive.
Supreme Court doubly so, I think. So
yeah, and the thing is with the Supreme Court, from my understanding, the losing side doesn't have to pay the winning side's fees, where magistrate it does. So, for example, because I believe
you're going to win,
I'm the one speaking the truth, and I'm going to win. You know, it would have been better for me because then they would have paid my fees. Where I believe this way, everyone pays their own costs.
I think with some of the discussions that I've had, we'll be going for costs.
So
don't worry about that.
So,
we'll be going for costs.
So yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah.
It's good to have a date set, and it's good to have a lawyer that's looking competent and looking like he's on my side and.
So if people want to help you, you've got a website up?
Yes, there's a couple, and I always forget the main one my brother uses. But there's another one that is convoytocanberra.com. That's the one I remember so easily.
Yep.
And if you look at that, I think it's a link tree page, and I think the top link you can do donations. The next one has YouTube videos of interviews as well as the original footage.
Yep.
That you can see.
Yeah, so you can actually see exactly what happened.
And form your own opinion.
Yeah, form your own opinion.
Whether
be interesting if the DPP had have watched it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll show it to them in court.
Yeah, so form your own opinion. Tell me if what happened is worth 7 charges, a maximum combined possible prison sentence of 40 years.
Yep.
You be the judge.
All right. Paul, thanks for coming. Thanks for all your help in getting me on the road and keeping me on the road. Because trust me, there is only one mechanic in this family, folks. That's him.
Yeah.
So yeah, appreciate it.
And yeah, thanks for all your support and all the work you've done for everyone else.
No, mate, all good. Thank you. Great to have you on board.
Thank you.
Thanks,
and
buddy.
Thanks for the support from everyone else in the community.
Thank you, folks. I might just get Darren back in to say goodnight, and we'll let you lovely folks head off and do a few things tonight, and we'll have a chat here with the locals, mates. You're going to tell me you're not cold? I can see the goosebumps.
No goosebumps.
No, just pimples.
It's warm as, mate. Warm as toast.
Mate, thanks for bringing that tyre up.
That's all right.
Appreciate
No
it.
problem at all.
And
Anytime.
and you're going back to Melbourne tonight to go back to work tomorrow, to
Mhm.
come back to Shepparton tomorrow night.
Yep.
It's going to be a big one. I believe you and I might be sharing a place tomorrow night.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring the beer.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll do that. Thanks, folks, for coming on tonight and sharing our little show from the Full Moon Saloon in Wood End. It's been a wonderful, wonderful journey getting here. It's been a very, very enjoyable journey, even if I was locked in and did $1,000 worth of tyres. I'm really pleased to have made the journey. And thank you to David, who is offering me a bit of tyre advice. Thank you. The steer tyres are okay. I've had a look at them, and I've had the tyre mechanics have a look at them. The steer tyres are fine. What we are going to do is have a bit of a play around with the new ones on the rears and see what happens. But I've got a sneaking suspicion I'm up for 4 new ones on the rear. So 2 of them will be finished tomorrow. The other 2 we'll see how much further we get. But it might be Shepparton tomorrow. It might be Bendigo the day after. But I've got a sneaking suspicion I'm going to need another 2 new tyres. We'll see what happens. Thank you for all your help and support, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow night in Shepparton, mate.
No worries. Thank you,
It'll,
Carl.
be a good
Cheers.
night out. And thank you to you folks. If you are going to come and join us tomorrow night, the Terminus Hotel in Shepparton is where we're going to be. Love to see you. Come along, have a meal. We'll be there. Well, don't know what time you'll get there, but we'll
5 o'clock.
be aiming to have a meal about 5:30 maybe, with a show time of pretty much the same time as we did tonight. I think that's a bit of a split for folks who haven't made it into the world of daylight savings yet, and for those who have. So 7 o'clock, I think that's daylight savings time. 6 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, or Eastern Normal Time. That'll be tomorrow night. Thanks, folks. Be safe on the roads. Don't let those dickheads hit you.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!